MMA Boxing Talk here. I just wanted to put out a UFC 206 preview video. Trying to make this pretty short. There's 5 fights I want to talk about. 5 fights that are really on my radar. I'm really looking forward to them. They're all really good matchups. All of them are good matchups. All these 5 fights I'm going to talk about. And I'm going to start off. Well, first of all, I'm going to be putting out prediction videos for all these 5 fights next week. I'm going to focus more on UFC 206 instead of the TUF 24 finale with, Demetrius Mighty Mouse Johnson taking on the winner of the show and Benavidez versus Cejudo. I'll make a prediction video the day before that, but I'm going to focus on 206. It's a really good card. In the main event, we have Daniel Cormier versus Rumble Johnson. It's a rematch. The first fight was a decent fight. Rumble came out and dropped DC, but DC in the end broke Rumble Johnson and submitted him. I truly believe that Daniel Cormier, would be the number one guy, the number one pound for pound guy, if it wasn't for John Jones. If you take John Jones out of the equation, if John Jones fought in a different era, Daniel Cormier would be the man in this division at 205, and he would also be the pound for pound number one. I truly believe. The only guy ever to beat him is arguably the greatest of all time. So, but Rumble Johnson is always dangerous. Just because he got broke the first time doesn't mean he's going to, he's not going to knock out DC this time. We don't know what's going to happen, but that's a great fight. In the co-main event, we have Max Holloway versus Anthony Pettis. This fight is for title contentions at 145, whether, the winner gets Jose Aldo for the interim title. I'm not sure. I'm not sure if the winner of this fight, Holloway versus Pettis, is going to get Aldo, or is Conor going to fight Aldo before these guys get a chance to fight Aldo. I'm not sure how this is going to work out, but the winner of Holloway Pettis is the number one contender, and I'm sorry to Frankie Edgar, but it just has to be. It just has to be. So, this is a great fight. Max Holloway's on a 9-fight win streak. Anthony Pettis, a former champion at 155. Looking forward to this fight a lot. Also, Donald Cowboy Cerrone versus Matt Brown. This fight got put together, not too long ago. Of course, Cerrone was supposed to fight at 205. Gastelum pulled out or couldn't make weight. So now they pushed him to 206. Cerrone versus Matt Brown. I love this matchup. Two tall, lanky, 170-pounders. Cerrone's looked tremendous at 170. Since moving up to 170, he's looked amazing, And Matt Brown, always tough, always resilient, never an easy fight. So, unless you're Damian Maia. But this is going to be a great matchup. I like this matchup, Cerrone Brown, a lot more than I liked Cerrone Gastelum. I think this is a better matchup, more exciting. Can't wait. Also, we have Cub Swanson, the veteran, taking on Choi, the Korean Superboy. Cannot wait for this fight. I'm a huge Choi fan. I know he's only had 3 fights in UFC, but all of them have come by first round KO or TKO. It's very impressive, despite maybe not fighting the highest competition. He has his chance to prove himself. He's fighting Cub Swanson. Cub Swanson is a veteran, a savvy veteran, a good technical striker. A guy that's seen a lot of stuff in his day. He's fought a lot of high-level guys. Cub Swanson losing most of, the big fights Cub Swanson seemed to have, lost in his career. I'm going to be quite honest. But he's fighting Choi. He's only 25 years old. Doesn't have a lot of experience. But Choi is very talented. He's very technical. He's very efficient with the striking. He doesn't throw looping, wild, crazy punches. They're very precise, accurate, straight down the pipe, right on the marker. But like Cub Swanson, great striker. So this is going to be a great fight. It's a big win for Cub Swanson, believe it or not. A win over Choi in spectacular fashion would mean a lot to the hardcore fans. But it's everything for Choi. If he can stop Cub Swanson or even get a decisive win, that's going to put him right into the top 5, top 6, 7 guys, and then he's right in the mix with everybody else in this division. But that's going to be a great fight. And then last but not least, we have John Makdessi taking on Lando Vanaata. This is a really good fight. I love this matchup. We got John Makdessi, who's had enough UFC fights. I think he's had 12 UFC fights, and he's 7-5. His UFC record. Lando Vanaata has only had one UFC fight, and it was a loss, to Tony Ferguson. But Lando Vanaata looked amazing in that fight against Tony Ferguson, having hurt Tony Ferguson in the first round. It looked like Tony Ferguson was done. This guy is one of the elite at 155. Tony Ferguson is the number 2 ranked guy. He's going to fight Khabib Nurmagomedov next, and the winner is going to face Conor McGregor. And this Lando Vanaata kid, he gave Tony Ferguson all he could handle, despite Ferguson not having truly prepared for Lando Vanaata, not having seen much footage on Lando Vanaata. It was Lando Vanaata's UFC debut, but this is his second fight against John Makdessi. Both guys are, I would say, on equal skill level. They're both around the same height. Makdessi is 5'8", Vanaata is 5'9". Vanaata has a 3-inch reach advantage, but they're relatively the same size. Makdessi's a great kickboxer, very skilled, very technical, likes his spinning kicks, his side kicks. He has a front stance, great on the the front leg. And Lando Vanaata, groovy Lando Vanaata. I mean, this guy's very funky in there, very unusual, very unorthodox style, very smooth in there as well. Hands down, So look for this to be a great, exciting fight. But the whole card, 5 great fights. There's some other good fights too. There's a heavyweight fight. There's also Aubin Mercier taking on Dober, Valerie Letourneau. Those 2 fights should be all right. But the big 5 is Makdessi Vanaata, Swanson versus Choi, Cerrone versus Brown, Holloway versus Pettis, and Cormier versus Johnson. I cannot wait. I'll be putting out prediction videos for all these fights next week. Stay tuned. And if you like the video, subscribe. And also check me out on Twitter at MMA Boxing Talk 1. Peace out.